All right, I think we are live. And yes, hello everyone. Hi, welcome. Welcome to this first session of uh, April Dance, an international conference on um, how do we look back and ahead. Basically, we're all stuck in our homes, everybody in India and also everybody who has joined us from other parts of the world. I would like to welcome all of you. Before I hand it over to our guest speakers and artists for today, I just want to quickly welcome you for this session. My name is Aditi Venkateshwaran. I am the Artistic Director of International Association for Performing Arts and Research. A couple of years ago, we started this initiative called April Dance. One primary motive was to get contemporary movers from the city of Pune and to sort of initiate a movement together. And one thing led to another. And right from Pune to Maharashtra to India to now, we are connected to people sitting in different parts of the world. And it's wonderful, as much as this whole year in the in the middle of the pandemic has been difficult, tough. We see every single day for the last few days we are all being hit by the second wave, which seems to just be more scarier. And while we hope and pray for everybody's safety and everybody's good health, it is also time to look at the arts and to look at how the arts can heal us. And one of the main reasons why we thought of initiating this conference was to look at how dance practitioners, performance makers, creators, teachers, artists, not just from India, not just within our city, within the state, but also abroad with different cultures, different systems, different infrastructure. How are they dealing with this whole situation? And how can we learn from each other? How can we hold each other? How can we support each other to move on in whatever capacities we feel we're capable of? So without wasting any more time, I would like to introduce to you Tanvi, my fellow partner in crime, a wonderful artist, and also somebody who's been helping me put this, through and through. Tanvi is a student of DMT, dance movement therapy. She's also a fantastic mover, a creative associate of IAPAR, and today she's going to be joining us to introduce the wonderful panel that we have and take this conversation ahead. So, hi Tanvi. I think I'm just going to ask you
Hi.
to take it away from here now.
Yes. Thank you so much. I extend one more time a warm welcome to all our panelists and to all those who've joined us today, to all those who are watching. So thank you for being here. Um, it has been a very challenging year. It's still it is an ongoing thing, and it at times life is felt suspended almost, and it has made us stop, pause, reflect on our practices, that we have been carrying out until now. And I, for one, I have been finding immense strength and hope in such a time. In By looking to other people and understanding and learning how they have been coping and dealing with the situation, and how they have been coming up with innovative ways in terms of their practice, in terms of generally living, and in terms of connecting with others. So this is something that we are here to discuss today, and I hope that we all find something to take away from these conversations. So without further ado, let us begin. um, we had two guests joining in today, Shamajit and Veeraja. Kiran, so they unfortunately will not be able to join us today because of a health emergency that Shamjit is facing. Um, we hope he recovers soon. But yeah, unfortunately, they couldn't make it today. We have three wonderful guests who could make it. Um, Deepna Daryanani is joining us from Mumbai today, and she is an educator, a movement artist, and co-founder of a mindful clothing brand for children called Love the World Today. Um, it is a wonderful mix of skills, and I'd love to know more about it. So, hi, Deepna, welcome. And she has designed a creative movement program for children called Move with Joy. Her dance practice is rooted in contemporary dance and dance theatre. Hi, Deepna, can you hear me?
Yes, hi Tanvi.
Welcome. How have you been?
Very confused, so to say, but it's sort of like a yo-yo. Most days okay, some days down in the dumps, and some days really up and about. But I think that's a general sentiment right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. I am so glad that you could make time for this today, and I would just request you to maybe shed some light on what your experience of the past year has been, and if you'd like to share with us how your relationship with your own body, if there has been like a difference, because suddenly we found ourselves in a confined space, and probably some people have been in isolation, some people have been with others. So your relationship with your body, and also in terms of your practice, if how things have changed and how you have been feeling about it. So over to you.
Thank you, Tanvi. First of all, thank you for inviting me to sort of share my reflections from the past year. It's really I mean, there have been days and moments when you think and reflect, but this allowed me to really consciously sit down and think through and write and dig deeper into how it's been. And I'm actually really excited to listen to all the other panelists today as well. I think most of us have been impacted by the last year. I don't think there's a single person who hasn't been impacted by the year that was. As I move forward, I want to just first of all clarify that for me, talking is not my first natural way of expression. Movement is. So often my thoughts may keep jumping from here and there, even though sort of I have made little notes on the side. So please stay with me and try and sort of connect the dots here and there. Coming back to what I was saying, that I don't think that there's anybody who hasn't been impacted by the year that was. But I also feel that somewhere somehow the year has given us a sort of space to question, to really question, our ways, and also to be open to change and growth, however easy or hard it may be for us, or how it may come to us. Like you mentioned about the work that I do, so I have been juggling with three jobs since the last 6 years, as a dancer, as an educator, and as a co-founder of a business. But and it's been fairly okay for me to juggle between the three, and I think it helped me to sort of switch on and switch off also, and that's also something that I personally enjoy, to not have any monotony. I want to sort of do a little bit of this, little bit of that, and it really helped me function. But I think last year it just got really overwhelming, because in that same space now I have to operate as all three professions. And that's when I think I really had to dig in a lot deeper to question about where does the switch on and switch off come from. So for me, physically, the last performance on stage was in November 2019 in Singapore. And since then, I haven't seen a stage, like most performing artists across. And at some point last year, I think one of the most pressing questions for me was that I was facing was, am I still a dancer? And it really took a toll on me, because that question started haunting me. There were months, I think I went without dancing for a good 4 to 5 months. It's also because I was recovering from COVID. So my body had really sort of taken a beating. And I think there was a sense of exhaustion and fatigue, and mentally being overworked. And I think I just couldn't find any strength physically or mentally to move. So the combination of not being on stage and also going through this physical mental exhaustion really made me question that if I do not move on a stage, or if I do not move in my daily life, am I still a dancer? And I think now, after all these months, I do have an answer to that. But for that period, it really made me question things about space. About why do I move? What does an audience mean to me? And we've all suddenly become so hyper aware of our of the space around us. It's obviously because of social distancing and not having any physical contact, a sense of hug, touch, anything. And that's made us so aware. And I think somewhere this lack of physical touch and physical space, and or a very hyper awareness of space around me, has somewhere made the inner voice much stronger, at least for me. It's sort of given me an ability to listen, like listen to the body. Of course, I think as movers, somewhere we are slightly more attuned to our bodies, but this time the listening felt at a much deeper level. It's almost like listening to feelings, sometimes feelings that, we've never had time for, or feelings that we've just brushed aside, or feelings we've suppressed because we don't want to confront, or just sometimes feelings which are like fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And that for me actually has been a very beautiful discovery as a mover, to know that my feelings matter. Any and every feeling matters, and somewhere they do form part of a bigger consciousness. And now more than ever, because I feel that all of us are feeling collective emotions, whether it's exhaustion, whether it's pain, whether it's anger, whether it's fatigue, whether it's helplessness. There is a collective consciousness. And I just feel like this particular chain of thought is something that's making me think about what do I want to carry forward in my work. And to a great extent, the answer to that for me is empathy. Just empathy, compassion, kindness, honoring our feelings. That is something I really want to carry forward in my work. Um, so I work extensively with children, and of course, when at the beginning of the pandemic, my biggest question was, how am I going to engage children as little as 3 on a digital medium, like through a screen. Even the thought was so scary, like how do you do it? Of course, now I think it's with practice I feel more comfortable with the medium, and I've discovered other skills and joys of it. But that initial period was a bit challenging and exhausting. And it also, the challenge was also because when you're working in dance education, a big part of it is an ensemble, and an ensemble in a shared physical space, and now you've taken both of these things away. And exactly a year later, here we are, and I feel like I've connected with so many children across the country, and some also across the globe. And the biggest learning for me has been that no matter where we come from, what our backgrounds, what our upbringing, we all speak a universal language. We all connect through music and movement. And that was an eye opener for me. I did not have to adapt my lesson plans, a lot. It was an instant connection. You put on music, children will respond with their bodies. And that really made me think about what connects all of us as human beings. And I feel that it also helped me put a lot of my performance work in practice, because every time I was entering a virtual classroom, it felt like, okay, game face on, you have to do a light check, sound check, prop check, check your frame, revise your
Right.
lesson plans, so have room for improvisation, then being 100% present, connecting with your audience, that's whoever that may be, whatever age group that may be for somebody. And then also learning to make eye contact through this little camera round circle on your screen, and adapting to these technical, it almost felt like a performance every time I had to step into or get into class. 15 minutes prior, that I had to just say, okay, switch off everything, and you have to be present. And that is amazing, because it's brought so much joy to my life in these months. That's been my source of performative joy. And it made me realize that yeah, somewhere movement and performance is part of our everyday. It is in the way we connect with somebody. And that, maybe that is what an honest performance is, when you truly, truly choose to say, I'm here, I'm with you, and I'm listening. And I'm also listening to myself and responding. So I feel that has been a sort of a big realization for me and answered my question about am I still a dancer? And of course, brought some amount of joy to me. Also to know that music and movement can heal, in that one moment you can tap into the power of your imagination and share all these feelings, whether it's technically or it is emotionally. Like for example, one of the props that we use in class is like this dupatta, and and I've really sort of tried tapping into everything and at home, for which parents don't have to do much prep work or source things from outside, just to make life simpler, because everybody right now I think is living such an uncertain life, and you do not want to inconvenience anyone even this much, because there's already enough. And for me, I feel like this, something as simple as this, becomes such a powerful tool, because you can use this one dupatta and it replaces my monkey bars. I can get children to work on their shoulder mobility with this, something as basic as this. Or I could maybe make it into a little circle and then place it on the floor and make a pond out of it in our own living rooms, wherever we are, whichever space we are in. Get into a malasan, which is basically a deep squat, jump in and out of that pond. We're working on a very technical aspect of hip mobility, ankle mobility. And then at the same time, this tool becomes for me, maybe if I just sort of tie it around and open up the thing into wings. I'm not doing it right now, but
Right.
gives me a sense of flight, and it's a beautiful way to release all these feelings which are so confusing, especially for children, even for adults, even for me. Or it can even become a superhero cape for me in class, and that immediately gives children a sense of feeling hopeful, feeling empowered, feeling strong in these times. And that's the thing, I think that's what movement and music does, in terms of just the power that it has to sort of just tap into your imagination no matter where you are. um, I think I also, right now, especially with the whole environment in India, so to say, specifically with how politically charged it is, I think you also start questioning your role as an artist, as an educator, because you're talking about future generations, right? You're prepping them for life that they're going to see 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and that's
Right.
going to be very different from the life we've lived. And with the whole political environment right now, and just the environment that we are in, somewhere I feel that the arts, uh, I mean, even though we haven't had a stage to perform, I feel the arts hold an incredible place of value in society right now. When you look at a 7-year old could possibly learn the skill of division even at age 10. It's not going to impact his or her, or their life too much. And more so, you even have tools like calculators to assist you with that. Those are things you can bank on technology for. But empathy, what about that? You can't wait. You can't wait to grow much older for a skill like that. And that is what is needed in our classrooms. That is what is needed in our homes. That is what is needed in our everyday interactions. And I just feel that that sense of empathy and listening to the body and connecting with the body is is something that happens best when started young. And these are the tools that the future generations probably need to wade through life as we know it. um, I feel I'm also learning to build the courage to accept that we will forever be a work in progress, as movers and artists and as practitioners. I think we are always going to be a work in progress. And I think with the whole digital medium and the pressure for short format content, videos, putting a work out there, the need to be visible or seen, or the instant gratification and validation that social media is giving us, somewhere that quality of work and practice needs to be brought back into the picture. I mean, I feel that we need to really sort of question our practice and it could be something really small and basic on a daily basis, but the need for going back to basics. And of course, we're going through a time when I think our minds are doing one thing, our bodies are doing one thing, everybody is feeling lost. But it's about taking that one tiny step, and that's something that's worked for me. I think I went for about 4 or 5 months of not moving, but then I've now started sort of building my practice again. And the beauty of it is that the body responds. You take one step and the body takes another step. You take one more step and the body will respond with one more small step. And somewhere, hopefully, they'll meet in the middle. Um, but I feel like I'm not in a rush anymore. I've really been able to look within and realize that nothing can replace practice and time. And the time you spend building the ability to listen to yourself as much as you listen to your audience. And definitely, I think connecting is becoming beyond the physical realm. Even just with how we are connecting right now, it's definitely sort of moving beyond a certain physical realm. And that is something I think I definitely want to carry forward in my work, because I feel that's the space, in the middle, which is beyond the physical realm, where there's space to listen, to respond, to be empathetic. And that is what I think has been my biggest takeaway in the last couple of months, and that I think I want to consciously spend time with, whether it's in my own practice on the floor, with my own relationship with my body, with my relationship with people around me, my relationship with strangers, or most importantly, when I sort of go into the classroom, and my relationship with those little children. So yes, I think for me, empathy has been the sort of biggest need of the hour to look into in my own work.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Deepna, for touching upon such important points, because especially empathy, compassion, because also in this year, it has also been something to realize for ourselves, like you rightly said, and for other people, and something to definitely carry forward. And then everything that you said about working with children and such joyful realizations that you've had. So I am very glad that you've also sort of found a connection back with your body. And I am also currently recovering from COVID, so I absolutely understand the disorientation that your body just goes through. So thank you for starting off the session with such wonderful sharings, and I will get back to you in a bit with some questions. So thank you. And our second guest for today is Seema. Seema Saptu has joined us from Singapore today. Hi, Seema. And her practice is rooted in Malay folk dance and contemporary dance, where she examines the kinesics of the dancer's body, something that I'd really love to know more about. And she is currently researching the dualities of being, where she is exploring connections between personal histories, narratives, and beliefs that are nestled within the physical body. So hi, Seema, welcome to the session.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
How are you doing? How have you been?
Things are back to like the new normal now in Singapore. I've been doing okay. Like projects are coming back quite normally with really strict measures because COVID is still around. But we are back now in studios, in theaters are now open, shows are now open. So things are looking on a more positive side or light right now in Singapore. And I'm preparing for a show in July this year, a few shows in May, June, July. So things are starting to, picking it up now. Correct.
Right. That sounds wonderful. Yeah, I think it's just been so different, and it's been going up and down for like everyone and differently in different countries. So as one country, finishes a wave, there's one happening in another one. So it's been like, yeah. But also, could you share your experience and go back a little and into the past year and tell us about what that has been like for you, and also has your understanding of the space also changed? I'm sure it has. So if you'd like to shed some light on that, and um, how you said you know, like coming up with a few new projects, so that sounds really wonderful, and there's something to look forward to also, I think, as an individual for you. So could you tell us a little bit about how those preparations took place in this situation where it might not have been possible to always be available physically to rehearse? So yeah.
Right. Okay. Let me share with like a timeline wise. Like a year back, from say like this month, April, technically, actually Singapore went into circuit breaker, which is I think it's like similarly to a lockdown, where everyone is not forced, but not forced, because that sounds very, very, harsh,
Yeah.
but circuit breaker where everyone is at home and not encouraged to be out, also for the safety of the whole country and the whole community. So when I was actually at home, so I live on my own, I don't live with my family. Things are slightly different because you're so used to like a big space, right? You're always in studio. I mean, I share the same sentiments with Deep now, because space is so, it's quite a crucial part for dancers, because we're always in space with in the studio or with other people, right? So the moment you're in lockdown, so you're kind of alone all the time. Even though I have like housemates, but it's not quite the same, and most rehearsals are moved online. So it's also this technology, we're talking about theater, fifth wall. I feel like that technology is like the sixth wall. It's something that you can never understand. And you're limited to this square, this rectangular, this screen. And sometimes when I conduct class, you don't quite get to experience what other people are sharing too. So when you give feedback or comments, you feel like a little bit frustrated, because you cannot actually assess and analyze what they're doing. So I think that's the kind of gap here we're talking about. Also, that I felt like I had to relearn how to make it work. I had to adapt, but also just in general, during that period of time, I had to really slow down, make time, and be present. Especially as personally as an individual, I had to, on a good positive optimistic side, I get to make times to do things for that I don't get time to make. I don't get to make time for. So for example, like I get to pick guitar back up and like learn how to play again. I get to binge watch my favorite shows. I get to edit my website, and really document my past works. I mean, individually, that was the time I used with the space that I had to make do, while waiting for a situation to get better here in Singapore. But also at that point of time, what really struck me was this language of care and support. Because sometimes we know the definition of it, but we seldom practice boundaries of care and support, even with ourselves and other people. So that was something I had to learn, and to really care for ourselves mentally and emotionally also. Being there for people too. And at that point of time when we went into circuit breaker, everything was put on hold. So all the shows were cancelled, and we're not allowed in studios. So I had to really be sensitive when I want to conduct rehearsals online, because not all of my cast members are comfortable with dancing in their personal space. So that was also something I had to ask myself, is this something that I can afford to take a step back, to pause, that was the negotiation that I had to make, a decision making on my side as a choreographer. But I also had time to relook at my practice, like what matters now, and how do I use this period to focus on healing, perhaps. I think Dipna also mentioned about that, healing through my practice. and thinking about relationships in relation to what home is. Sometimes home is not a physical space. Sometimes home could be within us, our own body. Yeah, so that was a journey that I went through for a few months during our circuit breaker lockdown in Singapore. But also, how do I realign myself, right, to these changes? Because change is so scary, but sometimes when you allow yourself to let change happen, I mean, it can be quite beautiful and rewarding, you know, and to relook at purpose and direction of perhaps what next, you know, in the future. I mean, it doesn't hurt to imagine and to hope. It doesn't hurt. So yeah, I had a lot of time to relook at my own desire, you know, to self-check, because sometimes our desires can be very strong. Like, I desire to do this, I desire to do that, I want to do this, do that, but you don't allow yourself to like stop, you know, take a step back, look at the bigger picture. Yeah. And during that whole process, I actually learned a lot of new skill. Usually, because I dance and I create works, but this time during this whole period, I actually really let myself to let loose a little, let go of like, I wish this hadn't happened. Really let go and embrace and be present and really accept whatever that comes my way. So I usually used to curate what I do for the year, but now I kind of like this change where I allow myself. So recently this year, I had my theatre debut for the first time, which is kind of amazing. I'm actually quite proud of myself for trying new things, because I get, yeah, because I get to work with people that are not in my usual genre. So these are theatre actors. And I get to work with amazing cast who've been doing this for like their whole life, you know, and I learn new skills, new knowledge from them, and amazing director, very patient director. I don't. Sometimes I also ask him, why do you pick me? You know, like I think they took the risk lah, huh? that is yeah. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, I always believe that myself as a vessel, where this body, this space, as a vessel with lots of treasure box that has opened or yet to open or yet to discover. So when I learn something new, I place it into my treasure box. So I mean, that's the kind of analogy that I like to work with, and sometimes I share in my class too, because in my practice, the title of my class is usually vessel bodies. So I always encourage. I think that's where it leads into talking about personal narratives, histories, and beliefs. Because in my practice, I believe that everyone is different, everyone is unique, and there's no quite right or wrong in expressing yourself. So I love to embrace everyone's uniqueness and quirkiness when I create my works. So that was why I wrote what I wrote when I sent to you. So I mean, moving onwards from here, my hope is for all of us to really be there for one another. It does not matter the distance. It does not matter whether internationally or locally. I think just in general, the world would benefit a lot more care and support from all of us, and really learn to set boundaries for yourself or for the people around you, and know what you can give, and know that you're not responsible for a lot of things that are beyond your control. And I think that was something that I also learned throughout that whole period of time. But as a community, I hope for all of us to be gentler to ourselves and to one another, because sometimes I feel like as artists, even within our own community, we're very harsh and sometimes too critical of each other, you know, or even to ourselves. So be there, be present for one another, provide support within our own means, lift each other up. Yeah, because it's more we than you and I, and that is something that I've learned tremendously during this period, and something that I hope to practice in my everyday life, not just in work, but just in general. So that's
Wow, thank you, Seema. Such, again, such beautiful sharings and lift each other up. I think, yes, if there is something that this year has given us, it is to just be there for each other, to hold each other, and to, make sure that we all are doing the best that we can instead of being too critical, like you said. And I also love the idea of our body or we being a treasure box. It just makes me feel happy inside to look at ourselves in such a hopeful way, because otherwise it's always like, oh my god, I need to do the best and I need to push myself more, and this is something that I can't do. So shifting the focus in that way is such a change of perspective. So thank you so much.
no problem. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the team too for inviting me. Yeah, on this conference, meeting all these other amazing panelists, and yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we will connect in a few minutes again to have a dialogue. And thank you. I will now move on to our third guest for today. Um, Atsushi Kakumoto has joined us from Japan. So we have like this whole diverse panel today, joining us from all of these different places and sharing their experiences from all of these different countries. So I think it's a wonderful experience to have. Hi, Atsushi. Atsushi is a Tokyo based theater director, and he has been representing this theater company called Duomo Ex Machina. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Um, since 2005. And Atsushi is also a researcher of history and linguistics. So connecting this knowledge with his training of physical movements has allowed him to create a very original style of dance theater. And yeah, he is. N- I have met Atsushi in at various arts festivals, so it is wonderful to see him now, although it is virtual. So hi, Atsushi, can you hear me?
Hi.
How have you been?
Yeah, very nice.
That is wonderful to know. I hope you and your family are doing safe and well.
Yeah, thank you.
Atsushi, I would love to know a little bit about what this year has looked like for you,
Yeah.
and your experience in terms of how your practice has changed of the arts, or if it hasn't, or and how it has been affected. So could you shed some light on that, please?
Okay. And I'm thinking about where to start my
Yes.
talk. And
Yeah.
and for me, it's maybe a bit strange to hear about what I'm saying, but for me, for last year, nothing changed somehow. And but other aside of that, so many things are changed. Like, for example, I think last year in February, I was in Fujairah in UAE, but after that, more than 1 year, I was not crossing the international border and always staying in the Tokyo. And this is somehow, for me, very unusual. Like after 6 or 5 years, I never
Absolutely.
left my city to travel somewhere. But this whole 1 year, I stayed in Tokyo. This was very big change for my personal living.
Okay.
With
Right.
this, for me, but still, I said it is nothing changed. And again, another thing, right now in Tokyo, there are so many restrictions about theater activities, or there are so many things we have to care or taking care about how we prevent the infections. So that so many things, like for example, many of the artists doing a kind of stop doing the stage shows, but switch to a kind of online show only. Or some others are doing a kind of the stage show, but still they limit their audience.
Right.
And for my case, I quit everything. I didn't do any online show. I didn't do any of the stage show.
Okay.
That means I don't have to limit any of audience because I didn't do things. Still, for me, nothing changed in somehow. Because as a theater director, when I come up of the kind of the next creation, it's always me starting first. And with this, I didn't use any of the physical things, or I didn't practice something together with some others. I didn't stage something, but I just research.
Okay. Okay. So your focus has been on research then,
So
right?
for me, this is somehow a kind of forced long period of the very beginning of my own creation process. I think about like this, and for me, like for this whole year, instead of just trying to do a kind of the new shows or kind of the adjusting type of the creation, instead I do a kind of the normal situation preparation in the very beginning phase. With this, like I try to think about after this corona chaos ended, what I can do or what kind of the stage is suitable for the audience in that moment. And with this, we never rehearse together with audience.
Right.
Audience are always in the last moment coming. We have to imagine, we have to expect. And this is something what I am doing for this whole year. And with this, another fortunate thing is for me, I have several kids here staying together with my house.
Okay.
And without crossing the international border, that means always staying together. With this, I saw how my 2-year-old son tried to acquire language, or how my 1 week ago 5-year-old daughter are trying to acquire music, trying to acquire rhythms. With this, I receive so many things when I am thinking about the kind of the adult performer trying to acquire new technique, or we are thinking about a kind of the how we give the words to audience, or how we give the rhythms to audience, how they perceive this kind of the things we always imagine and try, and we try, but we must success in the time of the performance. This time, for me, I don't do alone, but I do this together with my daughters and son. And with this, for me, nothing changed in my image. And but there's another thing, because of this hard time, so many of the artists living here in Tokyo or in all over Japan are somehow suffering about many change, including the loss of the opportunity to work also. And this is something aside from the artistic work, but we need to be very, very political, and we need to not too aggressive, but very quietly try to persuade somebody who can change the situation inside the government. With this, I try sending so many emails or talking, and try sometimes I also attended to the government office and talk also. With this, try to change a little. Although I have not a strong power in Tokyo, but still, what I can contribute, I try to continue. And also because maybe it was in appearance very bad situation that we couldn't travel, but with this whole year, there all over the world there are so many online events happen, and also there are many online communities of the theater artists start doing something or start talking about what comes after. With this, I try to attend as many as possible.
Okay, right.
And for one thing, maybe I should mention and try to advertise somehow is like starting in for the International Theater Institute and World Mime Organization just have started a kind of the network of physical theater. With this, not only the straight play, not only the dance in the abstract sense, not pantomime, or not a kind of the traditional performing arts, but a kind of the theater performance or dance performance which focusing the physical body. Now artists are gathering and trying to ask other artists, more artists to come inside our community and discussing something. This kind of the activity, and not only for the physical theater, but other many genres of the theater are starting doing this. And before, it was a bit difficult because it's always conference is the land-based, so that whoever cannot attend that lose that chance. But now it's a kind of the equal opportunities if somebody have a kind of the means to connect internet. With this, I think it's also a kind of the preparation for the something comes after. That means something of the kind of the real face-to-face communication. But this kind of the online community, I try to maintain or I try to contribute to maintain. This is another thing for this whole year I try to focus on.
And these online communities that you're talking about, are they limited to Japan or people living in Japan, or are they also open to having other people in, if it is a virtual community?
I'm thinking about worldwide community, not inside Japan, but something connecting the international communities of artists.
That sounds wonderful. So I get the sense that a lot of preparation is happening for what is to come, which is also such a wonderful perspective, because this year has made us pause in so many ways and in different capacities. And I also find it very interesting how you say that nothing has changed, but a lot of things do seem to have changed. Like, for example, you're still like maybe like the travel time has cut down for you, and like you're now involved in a more virtual medium. So when you say something like when you say that nothing has changed, then is it do you mean that more as a mental state of mind for you? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, for me, it's somehow, I think in reality, many things are changed. But
Yeah.
still, if I try to think, this is a kind of the normal state. One thing is for me as a director or for me as an artist, it is more easier for me to stay here in this situation. And also, I try to tell this, especially to many of the dancers and actors who, because their most specific profession are taking seriously about their body, they think that this change is a kind of drastic change. But don't forget that before we are doing a kind of the very moment of the curtain is open, we never see the audience. And it's always in the beginning, we don't start with the kind of the actual side of the stage, but we are gathering to the very small room. That means our physical movements are also limited. Sometimes we just walk around our city and thinking about what to pick up from our city.
Yeah,
It's always we are doing. So we don't have to care too much about this change, but thinking about how we are doing normally, that we still can do. We don't have to just think about this is a drastic change so that we have to adapt that. We just think about what we did and continue doing. That is also a kind of the good way of keep living in this hard time. So for me, especially to the performers, I always try to tell this because it's much easier for the playwrights or much easier for the choreographers who are not now dancing on stage, just making up with these kind of the profession. It's much easier to think up about this, but for the performer who need to practice or who need to another curtains to open, for them it is much a bit difficult for them to keep in that state of mind, so that I try to just calm down. It's okay. So we are do what we are going to.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Atsushi. That's a very, very unique perspective, and also to kind of like um use that pause and prepare instead of suddenly shifting and immediately changing too many things, which can become overwhelming, which has become overwhelming for a lot of us. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And with this, I will now open the session and have I would like all panelists to kind of, just probably come online again and like come online in the sense I know you're connected, but maybe if we could see you. And in case you want to share anything about what the others have already expressed. And I will also now share a few questions that I had based on what you guys have shared. Um, I get the sense that this year has also opened up a chance for a lot of interdisciplinary work, and a lot of people have now started coming together, maybe in the virtual medium, to kind of create something, collaborate. So, are there any experiences that you had in that sense, or what is your take on that? Like, is it something that you think of? Of course, it is a good thing to kind of come and create something, but is there anything that you'd like to add from personal experience, or is it something that you choose to take time about? Because I feel like a lot of people, like Atsushi mentioned very, like just a few seconds ago, a lot of us have quickly shifted because that was the need of the hour, and like classes had to move online, everything had to happen online, and a few people were a little overwhelmed, and they took some time. A few of us are still taking a little bit of time to see how this space can still be navigated. So yes, just your take on collaboration. Thank you. If anyone wants to take this question.
I think one exciting thing for me has been, this is not in the sense of creating work per se, performance work, but in the classroom, virtual classroom space. It's actually become a lot easier to step into a classroom anywhere in the world. So I've actually been able to connect with a lot of educators, some who work in the space of music with preschoolers, some who work with sign language with preschoolers. And that for me has been exciting because but it's so easy to now step into another classroom anywhere in the world and observe and sit back and learn so much, because often we're so busy with just doing, showing up, teaching. But it's also important to take that step back and see how maybe, when you observe how another educator is working through their medium with children, and there's just so much value in observing. So I feel for me that has been possible simply because of the times we are in. And sometimes I wonder, I mean, it's actually such an easy thing. We could have just always connected digitally. How come we never did that? But somewhere, somehow, this time has made it a lot more doable, easier, and possible.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Um, I think if I can just share a little, similarly to art sushi, there was that whole period of time where when you can't go out, so because I had to make the decision to not continue rehearsal. So I really spent a lot of time to just research, and that was such a valid point because there's so much change that happened, but there's also what do you do with that time period that you have. And very often before you start creating a work, you always because I create my own works, so that gave me time to actually really look into what matters in the work, and to dive deeper and to look at different perspective of the work before you even want to consider like continuing rehearsals, or working with other people, working with other bodies. So I felt like the moment Atsushi shared about research, I was like, hey, that's true. I spent the whole bulk of time at home by myself in my, within these four walls, just with my laptop, my papers pasting all over the wall, and just research and ask myself, read more books, and connect to people like through text and through email to ask what are your thoughts about these texts, and here are my ideas, what do you think of it. I think research is beyond just by myself reading, but also sharing ideas and concepts with people, just to bounce off ideas. Sometimes it might not even be because to create a work. Sometimes it could just be to spark a conversation. Um, and yeah, during that whole period of time, a lot of research was done before you actually get to be back on space. And now that, because things are getting better in Singapore, we get to be back in space and in studio and creating works. I think that kind of benefited me that whole period of time.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, I had a connecting question to this, Seema, since you're speaking. You are also researching about the dualities of being. So could you tell us a little bit about that? And also, was this also part of like when you were referring to researching, when you're talking about researching, is this what you are referring to also? Because, like you've mentioned that you work with personal histories and narratives, and suddenly being in isolation, like you said, with maybe an unexpected, not an unexpected set of people, but a lot of us were spend a lot of time with either our families or with our flatmates or just by ourselves. So like did that somehow also affect your thinking in a way as to how to go about the dualities of being?
Actually, this concept of dualities of being is actually from a work that I started creating in 2019, and I'm further developing it, which perhaps Aditi, if you could share the link to the festival. So Singapore is having a festival, it's called M1 Contemporary Dance Festival. So it's also accessible online. There are shows happening online, and the work that I'm currently doing is called Hase, which really investigates in. So I'm talking about gender, identity, and the uniqueness of our body. Talking about hermaphrodites, I don't know if that would interest anyone. I'm always talking about masculinity and femininity, and that was my investigation. But at that point of time, when I'm sharing about research, I was actually looking at another work that was focusing on my solo work, which is called Man, that focuses on relationship with people around me. Um, I'm not so sure if I want to like describe briefly, because I don't feel like
Yeah, that's
it justify the work. But thank you, Aditi, for sharing. I have a whole documentation of both works actually on my website. So feel free to read and watch videos and make comments if you have any. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. We have a question here from Saili. Um, was there a time in the past year where you didn't feel like doing anything at all, and how did you get out of it? A question I think from the entire world at this point, most of the world, I think. Yeah.
Actually, even I want to come in here and Saili's question somewhere around the same on the same lines, and something Sima mentioned, which actually has stuck with me, about how a lot of performers and dancers did not feel safe dancing in their house, which is what is very contradictory, because homes are our safe spaces, but suddenly when it comes to bringing in a performative self, it doesn't feel natural. And I dealt with that confusion for a very long time. I am still, I think it's again, we are back sitting in this room and everybody's again not sure how to navigate with movement. So yes, where do you stand? I mean, I know Atsushi works extensively with dancers in terms of creating work. Sima, you are a performer, you've also collaborated with theater artists, you said. Deepna, with children, I mean, that is just another level of negotiation that you have to do, so were there moments where it just did not make sense, and how do you get out of that then? How do you say, let's not give up just yet? Because God knows, we, like, at least I've had, and Saili shared this question, so some of us have really and are still facing these moments of extreme not knowing, or not wanting to do anything. So
And
how?
at that point, I think, sorry to interrupt, Aditi.
No, yeah.
Yeah, and I think in that point, when we are facing that emotion, I think it feels sort of endless and indefinite. It just feels like when you're out of it, it's easier to look back and, reflect on it differently. But when you're in the moment, it feels very endless. Yeah.
Then I'd like to say one
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And as Saidi's question about was there a time in the past year where I don't feel like doing anything at all, with that, for me, about my creation, not only this time, but in many cases, it always happens someday. And I just thinking about, I needed to finishing up this choreography until this day, or I need to write this play until this day, or I have to thinking about what I have to do in the first day of rehearsal. But suddenly it came up, I couldn't continue to do that. But always, one thing, it's always helping me taking out from that kind of the mind is my another thing, which is something of the Deepna always doing about the education. Because I also do a kind of the workshops to in many age groups or many backgrounds. And with this, for me, it's always thinking that, especially about education, in that moment is the only chance for the participant to not about receiving something from me, but how in that moment they spend their day of their formation. With that, if I lose to do something, for me, I think for their side, anything I did, they can absolve and they can do something. But from my side, I always want to give something which is much better than before. With this, I always want to refresh my menus of the workshops or my way of the making a kind of the several day sessions, what can be best, I always refresh. This, for me, I cannot stop. And this time it's also same. When I suffered about many of the canceling of the plan of going abroad to do the workshops, or many borders are closed and I have to cancel my flight. And in that moment, I I was too worried about that. Means not me, but that would be participants lose the chance of a kind of 19 minutes, which if I went there, that I with this, for my impression, when this corona situation happened and I have to change my schedules, first thing I replace and start doing is kind of the reflection about what kind of workshop I did for past 6 or 5 years. With this, I try to refresh and try to make a new version of the workshop. I don't know when I have to do this menu, or maybe in the saddest situation, I don't have any chance to realize the new project of the workshops. But still, for me, because if any moment there somebody called me to do the workshop, or some school called to me to do the course, I need to be ready at any moment. With this, I think, although my creation someday stopped, but in that day, I replaced that with my refreshing or reflection about what I should do for the next workshop. This kind of the image about the would-be participant, or most of the case, children, this keeps me very good pacemaker for what I am doing for not only for this whole year, but also almost always in these 10 years.
Thank you. Is there anything anyone else would like to share about this question?
Tanvi, can you just repeat that? I think we lost you. So just the last part that you spoke.
Yeah, I was just saying, is there anything that Seema or Deepna would like to add to this question? I'm just looking at the next few questions so I can share that.
Okay, so yeah, I think sometimes you should just, at least for me, yes, in the past year, there have been multiple times where I've felt like not doing anything, and months, periods of, but something that helps is breaking down. There are some things which can wait, and then there are some things where you just have to show up. The ones where that can wait, I think it's important to remind yourself that it's not a permanent situation. So there is going to come a time when you will feel differently, and it's okay to wait it out. And then for the things where you have to show up, I think for me, what helps is to really say, okay, I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and until, say, for example, 8 p.m., when this task has to get over, that's all I have to think about. So it's sometimes as much as just 10 hours or 2 hours or 1 hour. And that helps me to know that this is the definitive period until when I need to be present, and then I can continue being there for myself. And I mean, that's something that's really helped me to just simplify and break down things in life and into what can wait and what can't wait.
Makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, in that way, I think deadlines also help, because I think there was a point when I was just moving from deadline to deadline, like finishing one thing after the other. So like an external factor in kind of completing what you have to helps. All right, thank you for that. We have a question from Rutuja. What are some smart ways to manage finances in the times of COVID-19?
Actually, if I might just slot something in for a bit, before I answer the other question, to
Yeah,
follow up
for
on
sure.
Aditi's point about home being a safe space, I think that was something I had to relearn and be sensitive about, because that is also an assumption that home is a safe space for others too, and regardless if it's for movements or for personal, because sometimes safe space is also the mental space and the emotional state. And going back to Sadie's point, I think which is a very valid point, that I feel like knowing your boundaries is also important. Definitely, there were many pockets of time where I don't want to do anything. And on really bad days, I had to learn to forgive myself and tell myself that it is okay, that I don't need to be productive all the time, that I don't need to be present all the time. But there were also times where I feel like a schedule or a routine helped. So like planning, like what needs to be done, and have like a checklist or checkpoint of like things that you need to do. And I like to think of things as a ritual. So when you do things, so for example, if you wake up in the morning, your ritual is like doing yoga, for example, and really be present and focus on the journey, on the spiritual journey, the meditative journey. I think that kind of sets the day, the tone, the bar for the day also. That to me was helpful. Going back to the other question about finance, I think Atsushi also mentioned earlier about opportunity loss, because everything stops, right? So I think I think having a saving is very important too, to tap on savings. But I think one thing that helped me was like Singapore government also give out funds for self-employed, independent. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen.
Self-employed. So we were. I think at some degree we were helped by the government too. But there were also, because there was stuff happening online. So I didn't do any work online, but I accepted jobs online because that is literally my career, and I do need to earn some money. So like it or not, even when I do not feel like doing it, I had to work to make sure that I got food on my table. So some things, like beggars can't be choosers, right? So that was the sacrifice I had to do. And those money that come in, I just put it aside and save. Yeah, that was how I managed my finance.
Thank you. All right. So as we head to the close of the session, I would invite you all to share a few closing words if there is something that, you would like to express.
Everybody's very quiet.
This is the time of reflection. So,
Yeah, it's this time. But yes, Tanvi, thank you so much. And I think as we head towards the end of this session, the first session, Dipna, Sima, and Atsushi, it's been so enriching to hear all your journeys. And um, uh, when Shima was talking, I could see Deepna's face, and my face was also like, "Oh yeah, the government has given funds," and we're like, and see, the thing is, the dynamics are so different, and like the size of our country, the amount of people, the population, the kind of the economics that run around us are just so drastically different that for artists to be depending on funding is something that Indian artists have just not I was probably Atsushi can shed some light on this. A friend of mine who lives in Japan, she's a musician, and she'd put up something 1 month into the first lockdown last year. She'd put up something about how the funding had already reached a lot of artists, and they were sort of given the cushion for 3-4 months or something like that, if I'm not wrong. And I read that, and it just blew my mind, because something like that just feels so alien to us sitting India, but thank you for that question, and Seema, thank you for the answer. And we hear you. We all hear each other. So thing that you like to share, reflect on. I
Yeah,
think my
sorry.
internet is a little weak, so just closing thoughts from all three of you. Even Tanvi, if you want to share anything quickly before we say goodbye.
One thing I'd like to say
Yeah.
about the financing, because if we thinking about this problem, and also we sometimes get to know a little about some other countries, we tend to compare the situation of the artist of one country and other country, or comparing artist of one country and a situation of myself. Sometimes this is a bit mistaken, because this kind of the comparison ends to a kind of the bad misleading way that, oh, this country have this good institution, or oh, this country have the good kind of the way of government and we don't have that. But for me, I think it's most important thing are thinking about your own community or your own society. So for me, I always try to think not about artists in India or artists in America or artists in Singapore or Europe, but I'm thinking about who is very well maintaining their living in Tokyo. Is that national government officers maintaining their living very well, or is that kind of the businessman working for a foreign company? Are they very well living their lives? Forget about their doing is nothing artistic, but still, what kind of the support they have, but me artists don't have,
Right.
or what kind of the insurance they are using, but I don't use.
Yes.
This comparison, we always more focus than comparing artists worldwide, because sometimes the other profession of your own society have a kind of the good clue to break through your difficulty in your society. But for the long run plan, maybe we can think about Indian artist experience here, so that for in Tokyo, this can be introduced in 10 years run, or this European attitude are very good, then we are thinking about a kind of the project of making a kind of the similar way of the shift about the Japanese artists also, but a kind of the very short run, or a kind of the sudden critical moment. I think it's too late to compare about the artists worldwide, and it's
Sure.
better to think about the answer taking from your own society's other profession. That is something I try to do in Tokyo for this year, to persuade many of the freelance artists about this, because too many of the freelance artists thinking about European system is very well, but ours are not, and they just think losing their mind. But it is too late, I said. If we thinking about a 20-year plan or 10-year plan to change drastically the position of the artist in the society, it can be done, but like in a 1 week or 1 month, we cannot do that. So that, and with this, I try to compare our businessman is working like this and our artist is working like this, then what government you should do or you shouldn't do, and is this the situation we already have or it's not? This kind of the talk I always try to do with the Ministry of Culture. With this, I try to change the position of artists.
Perfect. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And yes, of course, it's not just about comparing, but it's just sometimes good to hear different perspectives.
Yes.
And like you said, not just looking at different countries blindly, but also to look at our community within ourselves, around us. I mean, even within India, the culture in even two cities like Mumbai and Pune that are so close, it's drastically different, you know. So even when we imagine performances or any sort of engagement in the cities, it's different. It has to be imagined differently in Bombay and Pune. So thank you so much, Atsushi, for that, and Shima and Deepna. We come towards the end. Thank you for giving us these key thoughts, Deepna, particularly about the empathy, about holding the space. Shima talking about uh, the treasure within our own selves, our own bodies, and Atsushi for this wonderful insight. Everybody who's joined us on the Zoom link, we will be taking a little break and coming back for another session, which begins at 6 o'clock. And I'll be very happy to see all of you again. Tanvi, thank you so much. And I will see you exactly in another few minutes. Yeah. So thank you so much, guys. And I wish you a lot of dance, movement, art, fun, and healing and health. Thank you.
And I hope we can connect in the physical space sometime. It would be lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for giving me or giving us this opportunity. And I hope Deepna and Shima, I would like to meet you face to face. Not too far future. Maybe this next year.
Hopefully we'll get a chance to meet everyone, in fact.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Yes. And anytime come to Tokyo, just tell me.
Likewise, if any of you come to Singapore, just DM me, drop me an email. Find me on Instagram, Facebook. I'm all over, actually. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Bye, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.